Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here. This is the DailySheeple.com's Daily News Brief. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the United States, and those who are not in the United States. Well, we have a lot to be thankful for. And I know with the state of the world, it often seems as if we don't have a lot to be thankful for, that it seems doom and gloom has engulfed the planet and oftentimes engulfs our daily lives. And folks, we do have a lot to be thankful for. You know, it can always be worse. That doesn't justify the darkness. It certainly does not. But sometimes we give the darkness too much power over our lives. And giving thanks and having faith will oftentimes, all the time, overpower that darkness. The hard part is taking that step off that, taking that first step in faith and being able to do that. It's been the hardest thing for me. And it's something that, it being Thanksgiving, I'm going to make it a habit every day to do. And I hope that many of you out there join me in taking that step and walking in faith. Faith that we're going to be okay. That regardless of how dark it may be, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And we're going to get there. And as hard as they try, the powers that shouldn't be, the globalists, the government, as hard as they try to suppress, to oppress, to persecute, we're going to be victorious. Now, Zero Hedge has a story that came out this morning that talks about Pizzagate. Now, if you don't know what Pizzagate is, it has to do with the child abuse and child trafficking ring that has been tied to the Podestas and the Clintons. And Reddit has banned their Pizzagate subreddit, saying that we don't want witch hunts on our site. This according to ZeroHedge.com. It says, for those not familiar with the movement, the, quote, Pizzagate subreddit was started by a group of Trump-supporting internet sleuths who were attempting to use WikiLeaks leaked Podesta emails to connect the Clintons and John Podesta to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That said, when the Podesta emails failed to reveal a smoking gun linkage, the sleuths instead turned their focus to multiple pizza references in the Podesta emails, which then led to the speculation that those pizza references must be a code for something far more sinister. And according to the Washington Post, the Pizzagate sleuths are convinced that the secret headquarters of a child sex trafficking ring run by Hillary Clinton and members of her inner circle is located in the basement of a Washington, D.C. pizza shop called the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria. The owner of the pizzeria, James Alfantis, says he's received numerous death threats over the past couple of weeks and has been forced to go to the FBI for protection. It's amazing. It says Alfantis has received hundreds of death threats, this according to the Washington Post, and that it is true. He's gone to the FBI. So according to the New York Times, Alfantis first heard of the Pizzagate after he started receiving threatening messages on Instagram and on Facebook. Now, aside from some friendships with prominent Democratic insiders like David Brock and Tony Podesta, Alfantis told the Times he's not sure how this conspiracy theory got linked to his business. Now, while the WAPO says the Pizzagate sleuths have failed to uncover any actual evidence of their accusations, the dismissal of their efforts by the media only seems to be strengthening their resolve. And in fact, after the Reddit ban, one former moderator of Pizzagate subreddit posted this message on the subreddit, The Donald. It says, finally, we are not finished. Obviously, the entire mod team and everyone else is tightening up on our OPSEC and putting on our battle armor. To those who pressured Reddit into this censorship, none of us are turning back. We have all made life insurance videos. We have all vowed to continue this fight, and you've only increased our number. This morning, we were numerous. Tonight, we are a legion. Isn't that interesting? Read between the lines, it says, we'd say they're not quite ready to give up on Pizzagate. Now, if you go and you look up some of this stuff and some of the evidence that they've unearthed, it's pretty compelling. And it's almost akin to Eyes Wide Shut. If you've never seen that movie, you should check it out. And also the Franklin cover-up. The Franklin cover-up is an unbelievable, horrific tale of child trafficking and abuse and murder. And I think that what we're seeing here is the unearthing or bringing to light of something that over in the UK, they've known that they're the elite and a lot of the people within Parliament are quite open and fond of pedophilia. But here in the United States, people haven't really come to accept that yet, that it happens here. Even though there's plenty of evidence to show how Child Protective Services and government has been complicit in a lot of this stuff. So it's just very interesting that there's an all-out push. And if you've noticed, this all came about, and then what happens? The censorship push. Fake news push. Why? Because we struck a nerve. And because you'll never get the mainstream media to actually go down this road, because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. Not to mention the fact that the Smith-Mundt Act, even though they were pushing propaganda before it was repealed, well, now it's repealed, they're going to do what they're told to do. All they are propaganda machines. It's up to independent media, because we are the only thing left that stands in the way and provides any shred of accountability out there. And that's not the only place where injustices are happening. Out in Standing Rock, it's getting worse. You don't see the mainstream media reporting about Standing Rock. Well, the Huffington Post just put out a piece about Standing Rock, which kind of surprised me. And it says on Thanksgiving week, Native Americans are being tear gassed in North Dakota. Interesting. It says Thanksgiving began in the fall of 1621 when a group of Native Americans joined with newly arrived English settlers to create a harvest feast together and protect each other from violence. This year, as Americans pick out their turkeys and count their blessings, members of the Sioux Nation in Standing Rock, North Dakota, reported being attacked by tear gas, rubber bullets, and water cannons in sub-freezing temperatures as protesting an oil pipeline that threatens to contaminate their water and disrupt their sacred sites. And by the way, the dailysheeple.com had a piece today. Ryan Bannister reported that a woman at Standing Rock who was doing nothing but delivering water to nonviolent protesters was hit by a concussion grenade. Now, we're not talking about a flashbang. We're talking about a concussion grenade, folks. That's a weapon of war. Police deny responsibility. It says water protectors at Standing Rock were attacked by police November 20th as they were attempting to clear debris from a bridge. For at least 7 hours, the police had surrounded and assaulted the crowd. One woman who had traveled to Standing Rock from New York City, her name, Sophia Wolanski, she's 21 years old, was horribly injured by shrapnel coming from a concussion grenade thrown by police into the crowd. Let me stop there. What the hell are police throwing concussion grenades into a crowd in the first place, number one? Number two, this has all the hallmarks, folks. If you remember, back in the late 1800s, the Rockefellers pushed the federal government to bring in troops to break a protest or a strike for the railroad. And federal troops ended up killing a bunch of people and being the cronies of big business. This is the same thing. This is an outrage, not to mention the fact it's on treaty land. So apparently, treaties only work one way, when it's in the government's favor. If it's not, then forget it. Her father witnessed this event. The grenade was intentionally thrown at Sophia. And her father and other bystanders have said the concussion grenade had been thrown directly at her, hit her in her left arm, and exploded. Sophia was merely attempting to bring water to unarmed people who had been attacked for several hours by Morton County Sheriff deputies. And I think about it, folks. It takes a special kind of evil. It takes a special kind of evil to do the things that they're doing out at Standing Rock. And I would suggest anybody that doesn't know or understand what's going on, educate themselves. Because what they're doing at Standing Rock could be at your doorstep or in your neighborhood tomorrow. Because we're not talking about active duty military here. We're talking about police. But if you want to talk about active duty military, why, we can do that too. Because according to the Washington Times, the Marine Corps is now experimenting. Their experiment silences entire infantry battalion weapons. They're silencing everything. They're saying it's revolutionizing the way they fight. It's very interesting. It says U.S. Marine Corps is attempting a unique experiment that pairs the deadly but typically loud firepower of an infantry battalion with silence. Ha ha. Stealth. That's what we want now, right? Major General John Love of the 2nd Marine Division out of Camp Lejeune is gathering data on the way suppressors improve battlefield communication and efficiency. Early testing at Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center at 29 Palms indicates that suppressing everything from M4 rifles to 50 cals have dramatically assisted U.S. warfighters. Well, of course it is. Think about it. If you don't have all that noise going on, you improve communication, and you also improve the way you can sneak up on people. Now, what General Love said is, we found that it revolutionizes the way we fight. It used to be a squad would be dispersed out over maybe 100 yards, so the squad leader couldn't relay communications with the members at the far end because of all the noise. Now, they can just communicate and be able to command and control and effectively direct those who fire. Now, question. Can you go and just put a silencer or a suppressor on your weapon? In most states, you can't. In most states, silencers are illegal, or you have to pay a hefty tax stamp to get one. Again, with government, it only works one way. As long as it benefits them, no problem. But if you want to do it, if you want to protect your family, if you want to do it in a more effective and efficient means, by having a silencer on your pistol or on your rifle, it's illegal. You can't have that. You can't be trusted. When in reality, folks, who can't be trusted? Who is it that robs us of our rights on a daily basis? Who is it that's out at Standing Rock right now attacking unarmed protesters and throwing concussion grenades at little girls trying to deliver water? This, my friends, is the world we live in. This is what is happening while people sit on their hands and do nothing. And it's an outrage. And people should be pissed. Absolutely pissed. Current price tag, by the way, for this, for lawmakers to consider, is $700,000 per infantry division. $700K. Unbelievable. The warrant officer even added that the infantry units set to deploy in combat in the coming months have suppressors on all rifles, including M27 infantry automatic rifles. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that's okay, it's overseas. What happens when it's not? What happens when it's not? What happens when that battlefield, which the National Defense Authorization Act deems the United States a battlefield every year since the year 2012? What happens when that battlefield comes to here, to the United States, to your backyard? And it's not a level playing field, folks. What then? Are you going to get pissed then? Because by then it'll be too late. I mean, it's time to get pissed. It's an outrage. But they continue to attack our way of life. They continue to attack our rights. They continue to erode civil liberties, destroy our environment in the name of corporate interests and greed. They continue to collude. These elitists, these politicians continue to operate above and outside the law, when in reality, you would be persecuted and prosecuted for 1/100,000th of a percent of what they do. But it's all right. You know why? Because as long as you're a good slave, you can have your Budweiser, you can have your NFL, and you can have your creature comforts of home. And you can carry on smartly. But is that the life that we want to live? And what kind of life is there going to be left for our children when they're old enough? And how are they going to feel or view us when they're stuck with an Orwellian police state of exponential proportion? I mean, this is tragic, folks. Tragic. SHTFplan.com just reported also the Obama administration is fining sheriff's departments that don't hire illegal immigrants. There's a sheriff's department, this according to the Daily Caller, that was slapped with a fine by the Department of Justice because it refused to hire non-citizens as deputies. That's interesting. I mean, if they can't get their North American Union, if they can't do away with borders, by God, they'll do it any other way they can get it. They'll skirt around Congress. They'll skirt around states, laws. They'll skirt around anything they can to enact their agenda. It says the lawlessness of the Obama administration knows no bounds. Not only has President Obama made every move he can through executive order to create and foster amnesty for illegal immigration, but his Justice Department is now attempting to force people to hire undocumented workers. Ironically, the agency at the other end of the intimidation is the Denver County Sheriff's Office. Isn't that interesting? Denver County. It says from the beginning of 2015 through last March, the Denver Sheriff's Department went on a major hiring binge, adding more than 200 new deputies, but those jobs ended up only going to citizens because the department made citizenship a standing requirement on the job application. And the department admitted that as much in a new settlement with the U.S. government, which requires it to pay a $10,000 fine. And the department will also have to comb through all of its job applications for the past 2 years, identifying immigrants who were excluded from the hiring process and give them due consideration. So how can someone be hired to enforce the law if they're living in violation of and ignorance of it? You see what I'm saying? How is the law even valid if it doesn't apply to anybody, if you can cherry pick it? Why do we recognize any of these laws anymore? You know why? Because there's the boot on your neck. Because there's a muzzle of a gun. There's a Bearcat. There's an MRAP that's been placed in a town and county and city near you. Because there's SWAT teams that can terrorize you. Because they've put all this into place. And now, my friends, now they're going to throw the switch. It's just a matter of time. So, are we going to get pissed? I certainly hope so. Michael Snyder wrote a piece, When Americans Shall Say Peace and Safety. Isn't that interesting? He, of course, referencing the Bible, talking about the end days. It says millions of Americans are expecting a new golden age from America, or for America under Donald Trump, but it's really not what they're going to get. There's always optimism when a new president is elected, but I don't know if I've ever seen anything like the euphoria that many Trump supporters are expressing right now. Yesterday, the Daily News Brief, I talked about the cult of personality. It's unlike anything I've seen, at least since President Obama was elected. But even then, I mean, the intensity of these people, of these Trump supporters, I mean, it's at a fervor pitch. And, of course, why? Because they've made people so desperate that they'll cling to any hero figure or put anybody on a pedestal that's willing to say what they want to hear. Doesn't matter that they actually do it. Ah, he said it. Ah. He says, look, I voted for Donald Trump and I want him to be successful. But when Donald Trump becomes our next president on January 20th, that doesn't mean that all the great problems that our great nation faces will suddenly magically disappear. He says, if you listen to some people, they make it sound like America is going to experience nothing but peace, prosperity, and blessings for decades to come. Michael continues, he says, I would love if that was indeed going to be the case, but unfortunately, that's just not the truth. And of course, I've highlighted the work of Brandon Smith over at altmarket.com. And he's been uncannily accurate when it comes to predicting things. And he's of the same opinion as myself and of Aaron and Melissa Dykes. Look at this guy's no savior. It doesn't matter how well-intentioned he is. It doesn't matter. It's a Mount Everest-sized situation that he's facing. And look at who he's surrounding himself with, folks. Okay? It's not Ron Paul. It's Mitt Romney. You know? It's Jeff Sessions. A staunch prohibitionist, even though history shows prohibition has never worked. But good, let's just do that. Let's just go with what doesn't work. You see what I'm saying? How can you possibly think that you're going to achieve success when you surround yourself with the residue of failed administrations and a failed bureaucracy? I just don't get it. If you want change for the better, why would you not surround yourself with some fresh faces that have not been a part of the crap and the chaos and the confusion and the destruction? But it just keeps on going. It keeps on going on and on and on. So, folks, in closing, on Thanksgiving, we have a lot to be thankful for because it can always be worse. But I can tell you this, we need to defend the things that we're thankful for because they can go away in a heartbeat. And slowly but surely, they're chiseling away at everything that we hold dear. I'm Joe Joseph. This was the dailysheeple.com news brief, and I'll have one again for you tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. God bless you.